Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. This is Keepin It Real, our wrestling series where we round up the week's wrestling news and chat to a wrestling media person. Andrew Thompson's having a little hiatus for his birthday, so I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by TalkSPORT's US editor, host of TalkWRESTLE, Mr. Alex McCarthy. How are you, my friend?
We're back. We are
back.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. A very good end of a long week, but not really though, because of course Payback on the horizon. SmackDown tonight. It never stops, does it?
Never stops. Another pay-per-view a week later. Gee, that's quick even for WWE, that isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, right. There was a point when they did the brands, when they first started the brand split up again, it was like every 2 weeks, wasn't it? But like now, like a week, just straight in.
I think it's just it's pointless, to be honest, but at the same time, I think they were looking to maximise their time. When they originally were going to do this, it was all around sort of the PC, and I know Evolution was spoken about, wasn't it? But yeah. Here we are, we got Payback for some reason, and it just seems like a very weird concept to have a week after a pay-per-view, but there you go.
I actually think maybe I'm giving like too much credit to the creative minds that are making the decisions. I actually think that it's there for a reason, and you might see like a bit of a reset, maybe a debut or two, and just kind of, I think we might see Retribution, maybe one or two of them unmasked, maybe a Dominic Dijakovic debut, maybe, and I just a few more teasers for the Bailey and Sasha stuff, and I think they'll move stuff along. I think they've got to, because otherwise people will be a bit like, well, that was pointless if they don't shift it along a bit. So yeah. I think they've got to make it special, and I think they will. Hopefully, he says.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been last time I had you on was for the live show, I think, wasn't it, on the Friday night?
It was, yeah.
Seems like another year. It seems like so long ago. It's unbelievable. But right, so let's start with like NXT TakeOver. It didn't feel like a takeover to me in the PC. I'm in Full Sail. Sorry, I just without the fans, I think that Full Sail crowd are such a big part of NXT that of all the shows which have done these shows with no fans, I think NXT has been hurt the most. Like, they've still put on some excellent shows. I think it's been really good TV, but I think from an atmosphere point of view, they've been hurt the most. Would you agree with that?
I do think that the fans do play like a special part in what makes it a takeover special. But I do think the quality of match was very high. Yes. And I do think the action was of a takeover level. It's weirdly enough, I thought Cross and Lee was probably the weakest match on the card. It's probably had the most significance.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be too harsh, because of course we know Cross suffered an injury early on, so that could have affected the match in untold ways. And he's meant to be working over Lee's shoulder, when in actual fact his shoulder's hanging on by a thread. So, I just felt like the pacing and the match didn't really live up to the hype, right? Like, you got Karrion Kross, who's like the unstoppable monster, and Keith Lee, who was the fresh champion, but of course he's a beast in his own right. Now we know Keith Lee was destined for Raw all along, so Vince made the call, and Triple H is handcuffed creatively at that point. But they'd already been building Karrion Kross, so what harm, I guess. I mean, I didn't like the switch. I'm not actually huge on Karrion Kross. Like, I was willing to give his title reign a go, and get to know. Because I do like the presentation with Scarlett and all of that, but I didn't really buy into his matches and stuff yet. I just haven't. I don't know whether I just haven't had enough time to do it or not, but it's something's missing there for me. So him going away and us getting this fatal 4-way Iron Man, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I did think the rest of the TakeOver card delivered. It's just a shame, as it has been for all wrestling, that you can't have that atmosphere that only a TakeOver can bring.
Yeah, if you think of all the moments that we've had, like during the lockdown period or the no fan period, and some of the pops that we've missed out on, like FTR debuting and title changes, and there's so many different things which have happened, like even that Cody and Brody Lee match last Saturday.
Yeah.
I think like the crowd for that would have been really special. Obviously they put Brody over huge, and some interesting.
Think Mandy and Otis at WrestleMania, man. Imagine that.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, there's so many though, isn't there? Like over the time, like I'm trying to think of some other, but there's been so many. Like Roman coming back on Sunday, you know.
Yeah.
That we'll get to that. That's I've got some views, which will surprise you. But I thought with NXT TakeOver, actually, I thought they got the match order wrong. I agree with you. I thought all the matches were really good. I thought the main event probably under-delivered a bit. I was really looking forward to this kind of like Karrion Kross, the unstoppable monster, versus the champion who's beaten everyone and who's like the immovable object, if you like. And
Yes.
They didn't quite deliver in that way. But like you say, you don't know how much of that was because of, you know, the shoulder and whatnot. You know, it's clear that Karrion Kross is the guy they want to saddle their ship to at the moment.
Yes.
And you know, from a positive point of view, when he comes back, we may have fans for one. So you're going to get that return pop for him, and he's been presented. Even if the matches have under-delivered, his character work and the way he's been presented has been sensational. So, you know, from that aesthetic point of view, it's going to be special when he comes back. Did anything surprise you from NXT TakeOver?
I mean, it may be the opposite in the sense that, like, when I watched Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, there wasn't a part of me that bought Dakota Kai winning that match in any facet, and that's nothing to do with her. She's a great talent, and I like her, but she just wasn't presented that way, and I didn't ever think that WWE would have Shirai lose that match. So the talent that both of them have, though, actually made you put on an investable match. So that was very cool, and I thought they did a lot at the end with the nods to the future. Rhea Ripley kind of wants the title. Then Raquel Gonzalez, real life good friend, but they're both probably the biggest women in NXT, and they have that tease, and there was just lots of little things threaded into that I thought was really good. I thought Damian Priest was the right winner and the winner that you could probably telegraph out of all of them, but still, just because you can see it coming doesn't mean it won't be good or it's not the right decision. And I'm glad that Finn Balor got a win because, I feel like he needed it in the worst way, and since he's been back in NXT, it's hard to say why he's been back. Like, what has been the goal? Has he got anyone over? Has he done anything himself? Has there been a major angle? Not really. So I hope, poetically, that the misfortune of Karrion Kross's injury will present Balor his first world title since the injury that cost him a world title. So I think, that'd be nice for me.
Yeah, that'd be a good touch. I think, like, when I look at Finn Balor in NXT, the moment where he was face to face with Undisputed Era and they did that kind of tease when he first came into NXT, that was awesome, and I was ready for that heel Balor kind of run in NXT, and then he's kind of slowly turned back babyface over time. So yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I thought Pat McAfee was a bit of a surprise, I've got to say.
Yes,
that was pretty incredible. I think Adam Cole deserves so much credit, like, because Pat McAfee is an athlete. Let's make no mistake, he is an athlete. I was aware that he was capable of doing some of the stuff that he did, but you still need someone who's experienced and skilled enough to carry someone in their first match ever, like, through that to that level. And I thought Adam Cole did a sensational job, much like Seth Rollins did on the Sunday with Dominic as well, I've got to say.
Undeniable on both accounts, I think. And the thing with Pat McAfee, like, it's one thing to be able to do a flip and all that stuff, but the pressure on that stage, his mannerisms are really good for someone that novice. And I think as well, like, his heel promos, all of that, like, he's actually got a lot more in his natural locker than you could really imagine. So I thought it played out perfectly. And like many people have said, probably the best celebrity, incoming match WWE have ever had, and it's been so good that I haven't actually even considered it to be like that kind of match.
No.
It was just, to me, it was just McAfee versus Cole, and that's probably the biggest compliment we can play him.
Yeah, like when they first announced this match, I was like, oh, because I'm not even like Pat McAfee has at times grated on me a little bit. I haven't always enjoyed his work when he's been on pre-shows and stuff.
You speak for a lot of people. I think.
Yeah, so I wasn't like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. I was like, oh, really? Adam Cole, like he's going from a title pitch to that. But I was pleasantly surprised. Going back to what you said about Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley, what I liked about that the most was that they didn't touch. And so we've talked about before, mate, like sometimes less is more. And the fact that they just went face to face and neither took a back step. Dakota Kai had to kind of usher Raquel Gonzalez away rather than her being the one to take a back step and get out the ring. I like that. And I hope that they prolong that over the weeks where they don't end up brawling just yet, because I think there's something there in that they've both got a unique look and they're both bigger than all the other women. On NXT TV this week, there was a few little interesting teases which I found fascinating, which I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on. So you had Timothy Thatcher was teased, I think he's going to face Damian Priest, which on paper I was like, I'm ready for that, yes. And then I was like, but I don't really want to see Timothy Thatcher lose again. Because when he beat Riddle, I was like, that's how you make someone coming in, especially the kind of character he is. And then he feels like he's just lost every match since then, which is disappointing.
Yeah. Well, he beat Oney Lorcan, didn't he? And then obviously he had the Balor match, which was excellent, by the way. Very good. At TakeOver. So you could say there's no shame in losing to Finn Balor, but the problem is, like you said, if they move that, if they pivot from the Balor loss to another loss to Priest, then it's a bit like, what have you got for him then? Where are you gonna send him? What are you gonna do with him? So I do think Tim Thatcher has a unique skill set, and it was awesome to see him bring out the best of Balor on the mat. And
really it was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I just feel there's something there. But again, it's always tricky when you crown new champions because you want them to have great matches and solidify their reign and whatnot, justify the decision. But at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice people. You want them to have credible opponents, but not you don't want to ruin other people in the process.
Yeah,
I think that was a large part of, like, you look at Drew McIntyre's reign. The Seth Rollins win was a great one to kick it off. But then we kind of expected him to beat Lashley and Ziggler. As entertaining as they both were, he was expected to beat them. And then Orton was the real, like, oh, who's going to win this? Like, most people thought Orton. But the way they did the match and the finish, I don't think anyone really has a problem. So that's the way you do it. And suffices to say, it means they can book it so that Thatcher is protected. But I don't want to see him eating too many losses either. And if they did, I'd be worried for what they think of him positionally.
Yeah, and like when he beat Riddle, I did think, they see something in him, and because he is different, he's different to everyone else. He's got a unique skill set. He's got a unique look. He's got a unique character. So I did think this could be. I was excited to see what they were going to do with him. But we'll see. You never know. He might beat Priest. They might hotshot the title straight onto him. But that doesn't seem very NXT-like. So either they're going to beat Timothy Thatcher again, or they're going to have some sort of finish. And do you feel like, I don't know how you feel about this, I feel like they need to move away from the multi-man US for that
North American
US title. I was thinking for the North American title, I'd like to see a singles feud now. I don't want to see a triple threat or a multi-man match, which creates this problem whereby if you're going to get out of the Timothy Thatcher losing, you've either got to start another feud for him with someone else, or someone else starts another feud with Damian Priest, which then it becomes a three-way. And I'm ready for a singles match. I don't quite know who. Who would you like to see a singles feud over the North American title between?
See, I was saying this the other day. Like Damian Priest, for me, his character's only just starting to really flesh out, and that hasn't been something that I've been overly attracted to. It's more been his in-ring work that I've really, really enjoyed. And in an ideal world, I do think the babyface Undisputed Era, when Kyle O'Reilly looked great this week, but Priest is kind of a babyface, so I guess you'd want to pair him up with a heel, but looking at big heels or guys that could cause him a problem, kind of short on the spectrum. I think maybe Velveteen Dream is maybe because I would say Gargano, but he's had like a million chances at the North American title. So Ciampa's just turned. Ciampa and Priest is intrigues.
Can't beat Ciampa though, can you, at the moment?
Well, this is what I mean. But if we're talking like a feud, you can do it in a way where whatever.
He could get disqualified, couldn't he, or whatever. Dexter Lumis maybe could be.
Is he ill though? I mean, he's one of them, isn't he? Where
didn't he? I think
he's just because he's an odd character. You could get away with it, I think. But I think he's injured at the moment anyway, so not sure what the deal is there. I mean, like I said, they need to pair. One thing that NXT that's bothered me a little bit, and this was the problem with Keith Lee, as a babyface, they had him working much smaller heels, which in reverse isn't that bad, right? Like when you're the bigger heel, and you're the babyface from underneath doing a David Goliath thing, but the other way around, it's just a bit weird. And every time Keith Lee had to like feign an injury every single match, and you thought it's just not that great to watch when they put those shackles on. And that could be the problem that Priest has too, because he's a big old boy. So we'll have to see.
It is a shame because Keith Lee and Damian Priest can work fantastic matches. Like you see some of their stuff in like PWG and Ring of Honor, and they can have incredible, exciting, heart-stopping matches. Give them 8 to 10 minutes and just say go, which I know is not always the WWE style, but they
Hardly
have done
ever.
it. NXT, they have done it. And I would like to maybe see them do it a little bit. One of the other teasers or threads which I was mentioning, so you had Tommaso Ciampa turned heel in quite a brutal way. Poor old Jake Atlas took his beating. Well, I thought he sold like an absolute champ, by the way. I thought he was really good.
The draping DDT off the gurney, I was like, ooh. Yeah, it did well.
So you had that. So it'll be interesting what they do with Ciampa. Will they give him Goldie as a heel? I wouldn't put it past him. Because that kind of completes that storyline, doesn't it? Where
the story's there. He never lost it. He never lost it, did he? So it's plausible, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them go back to the well with Gargano and Ciampa, but they're both heels at the moment, so I don't know. That's a story that's always ready made, but it felt like it had a pretty final conclusion.
Yeah.
Earlier this year.
What about a heel run? If say you put the title on Balor or who's the other person in it?
Gargano.
No, say they put the title on either Cole or Balor. What about because you've got Breezango, the tag team champions, a heel DIY, but like super heels, like basically what Ciampa was doing, versus Atlas, where he's brutal and he's just destroying guys. What about if they were to do that to Breezango and have a bit of a heel tag team run? Would you be down for that?
Yeah, I'd be all for it. I mean, who isn't down for DIY? I think in the 4-way, although Cole is babyface and that's intriguing to me, I don't think I want to see him win the title again. He's just had it for a long time. Yeah. I don't really want to see Gargano with it either. I think, but that just, like I said, poetically, it leaves Balor for me. But I am intrigued with the whole Ciampa never lost it story. So there is a couple of things in play.
Options, isn't there? Mm-hmm. I would like to see Adam Cole on SmackDown. I have to be honest.
I wouldn't want to see him without the Undisputed Era. I think that's
I mean all four of them on.
Yeah.
I'd like to see all four of them on SmackDown. So I saw an interesting, and this kind of ties into NXT. I saw someone speculating recklessly on social media today that Wade Barrett is going to be revealed as the leader of Retribution. I don't see that whatsoever myself, but I thought it was an interesting concept, and it transitions us nicely into kind of Raw and SmackDown. Retribution, great idea on paper. Are they executing it as well as they could?
No. I know you've brought me on here to say more than no, but that's the short answer. And when you look at, like you said, the concept, I'm all for it. Like, as mysterious stables and things of that nature. But they were like kid vandals to begin with, and some weeks there's like loads of members, some weeks there's not, some weeks they're tall, some weeks they're small. If it all makes sense in the end, awesome.
That's okay.
Yeah,
if they just reveal it as four guys who are different sizes and a couple of girls, and they don't explain why they
there
have
are so
grown
many.
and short, then that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
What's weird to me as well is I find that the Retribution angles on SmackDown have been pretty good. The Retribution angles on Raw, I feel, have been a lot weaker generally. Like I'm sure if you went through each one individually, you might find one on SmackDown which wasn't as good. But I think generally they've been more physical on SmackDown. I don't know if that's because Raw's been taped, so it's a bit more like they're trying to keep it under wraps. I don't know the reasons why. That's just my general feel for it.
I think that what you were just saying as well about Barrett. Like, I reached out to WWE the other day after he returned to speak to him, and they were like, "Well, he's actually not under contract with us, so that's not something that we would do." It literally is on a rolling date basis at the moment. So I know that he's not locked in for anything, and I know that Wade Barrett is the kind of guy who's like on a case by case basis. If they come to him and say we've got a great idea, then he's open. Yeah. But I wouldn't put too much stock into the idea that he's behind anything.
Do you know anything? Just to put you on the spot, do you know anything about where Mauro Ranallo's gone? He's just kind of disappeared off TV, and they haven't really said much.
Last week he had a family thing that he had to attend to.
Right, okay.
I don't know whether that's a death or anything else. He had I think it was just reported that he had a family issue, okay. And Triple H said as much on the post TakeOver show.
Okay.
So he said that's why Graves came in. It was a last minute thing. Like, it's not, Mauro's not being kicked to the curb or anything. I think he is just taking some time for a family issue. Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, I thought it was quite nice to have Corey Graves back on NXT.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit more relaxed on NXT as well. I can't think why he'd
be
more
isn't
relaxed.
Yeah.
But I also thought Wade Barrett did a fantastic job. I gotta say, I really enjoy Wade Barrett's work as a commentator. I prefer Nigel McGuinness, and I hope that they bring Nigel McGuinness back when the travel stuff is all eased.
I prefer Nigel. But, I mean, this is the interesting thing, right? Next week, I'll be going to the BT studios and stuff to talk to a lot of the NXT UK talent. Presumably, he would be one of their commentators, him and Andy Shepherd, perhaps. So, I don't know that for sure yet, but I'll be able to tell you next week.
Yeah, I'd be very interested because I think he's the best sort of colour commentary guy in the world. I think he's the best.
He is good.
And I really,
on that note,
really enjoy his stuff.
I feel like Beth Phoenix has gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
she.
When you consider she's doing it remotely as well, mate.
I mean, it's hard, isn't it, to not have to feel.
Yeah, it's got to be really different to sitting next. It's like if me and you were sat next to each other now, talking and doing this show. It just automatically feels different, doesn't it? It's just the way it is. Okay, so we'll finish off on WWE. I got a couple of questions I can ask you about SummerSlam. Retribution, where do you think it's going to go? Who do you think is going to be in and out and shake it all about?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it goes to Survivor Series. There's some sort of team matches there. Like my mind wanders from really elaborate things like, oh, maybe it's something planted by Triple H to, because they seem to be all NXT exports and stuff like that. To just Maybe it's the way to present Dijak, or I don't know. But I do know if they don't present a really strong leader, it's going to be dead in the water. So they need to handle it with care.
Who is a strong leader for you?
Well, when they first said
not the
Ciampa, no, not the Miz. When they first said Ciampa, I was like, oh, that's intriguing. But obviously, it seems like he's got plans now. If Dijak's in it, cool. The Miz, they're teasing it, like, you know, the way he's always late to help. Yeah, I think if they did it now, the reveal would suck. It'd be like, oh well, we all saw that. So, but just the fact that they're teasing him leads me to believe it probably is a main roster guy. I don't think it's going to be like a Roman.
The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. It's a long shot for me, that one.
I hope it's like tied in with the hacker storyline. That's just in.
That's why my next question was going to be: do you think they're going to tie it in? They should.
I hope so, and it would make kind of sense. Like the people in Retribution look like the hacker in the video, right? The way they're dressed and stuff. So it wouldn't be a stretch. I don't know if I have faith in WWE to actually pull that off, though.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because without us knowing who is going to be in it or having an idea of who's going to be in it, it's difficult to say, you know, which way to take it or which way we think they should take it. I want them to up the ante a little bit now, become more physical in terms of attacking people. I want them to start focusing on, so say Dominic Dijak is one of the main guys in it. I want him to start attacking whoever, Braun Strowman, because that's going to be his first feud, and I want them to start like setting that up, that focus. If it's Chelsea Green, which I hope is one of them, she starts attacking Naomi when Naomi gets a title shot, or you know, whatever it may be. I want them to start focusing. I hope there's a tag team in there. I don't know who the tag team would be though. It's the only problem. I mean, there's nothing to say you couldn't have. It couldn't be. I don't know. A Chad Gable could be in there for, you know. There's many people. It doesn't have to be NXT guys, does it?
If it is a big stable, like it looks like, then you'd hope that there is a mixture of talent, like men and women, like as has been suggested. And there's lots of opportunities for you to say, this guy's not doing much, this guy's not doing much, this girl hasn't done much. And you go, right, let's find something for them and some stories to sink into as a collective. And I hate to be like this boring kind of back in my day guy, but in the Attitude Era, it did work having stables, and it always gave the mid card talent something to do.
Well, funny, I've been saying since even when like the Wyatts and when you had the Wyatts and the Shield, I would always say, you know, add to that, have more stables, because you can have feuds within the stables, you can have singles feuds, tag team feuds. They don't all have to be feuding at the same time. You can. And I feel like what WWE used to do in the Attitude Era very well, which they don't do as well now, is you had storylines throughout the card. So you'd have a lower card, your comedy or your opening matches, blah blah blah. But they'd be in feuds. There would be segments dedicated to them, you know, even if they were only short. But there would be genuine feuds and hatred,
running narrative.
Yeah, whether it's Goldust versus Val Venus or, you know, whatever it may be. And it would be all the way up to the main. And as it gets higher up the card, the segments are, you know, more focused, etc. So, SummerSlam. Overall thoughts, mate? Just generally.
Oh, that was a great show. I thought the match quality was great, and to end on the note of Roman Reigns' return, awesome.
Very interesting. So, as you know, I'm a big Bray Wyatt fan. I think creatively, there's not many on his level. And I love, there's a couple of guys on YouTube who do these videos where they really look into like all the Easter eggs which he drops in his videos and his funhouse stuff. I love all that. But what I really like is that apart from The Miz, all of his opponents since he's become the Fiend, they all kind of flow into this big interlocking kind of story which goes back, and Roman fits so perfectly into that. Yeah, the anything but anyone but you kind of storyline. But what makes it a bit intriguing for me is Braun Strowman also had this massive feud with Roman Reigns, where he'd always say, "I'm not finished with you," and I kind of like, you don't quite know which one Roman's going to feud with. I'm assuming I'd be very, very surprised if Roman Reigns isn't champion by the end of Payback.
So would I.
I just hope they don't beat the Fiend. That's all. I just don't pin the Fiend.
You have to imagine that's the whole reason Strowman's there. Almost.
Yeah.
I know that he's just coming off a title run, but I'm assuming he's there to take the pin Sunday.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? But I mean, I'd be down. As much as I don't really want to see the Fiend losing to anyone at this point, because I feel like they've done an all right job, even though they've probably taken a couple of wrong turns. Goldberg. I do feel like they've done an all right job with the storytelling of the Fiend. Just maybe in other areas, the booking maybe is where they've let themselves down a little bit. I do feel that Bray Wyatt versus the Fiend could be Roman Reigns versus the Fiend could be like a really interesting story, but I don't trust them to tell it in a way that's gonna not completely kill the Fiend, because they want Roman to be the conquering hero and the Fiend to be the monster, and when in actual fact a lot of people want the Fiend to be the babyface and they want Roman Reigns to be the heel.
But
do you think he's a heel?
Here's where it gets interesting, right? Because the way WWE have navigated this, so when the Fiend was coming in SummerSlam, he was getting cheered. Obviously WWE piping them in, and Strowman was getting the boos. So, given that most people will want the Fiend to triumph over Roman, or to just triumph in general, it's a very smart play to bring him back as in this like middle heel role, because when he beats the Fiend and people are mad, that's what they want. Reigns is going to want that reaction, and I think it's genius. I do think he's back as a heel. I was told a week before it happened that it was going to happen, and I actually said to the guy, I was like, "Nah, it won't." Like, I just didn't believe it. I was like, "It won't
change
happen."
their mind.
I was like, "No way." I messaged him the day of SummerSlam and said, "Like, is it still happening?" He was like, "Well, he's here." I was like, "Shit, like maybe it is happening," but I don't know, man. Like, I hope he isn't like the played out heel. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hope he doesn't turn into like a cowardly heel, or I just want him to be. Yeah, I just want him to be like a badass who just wrecks stuff up. That's what Roman should have always been. So
the tweener. The only time I felt like he should have changed from that tweener kind of in between heel and face was there was a period where everyone hated him was at his highest. I felt like then he should have aligned with a Stephanie or a Vince and put the suit on and the sunglasses and effectively become the corporate Rock, but in his own way. At the time, I think that ship has probably sailed now, just because everybody knew he was the chosen one.
But that character would have worked too, because he actually does all the media, he does all the, the Make-A-Wish and all that stuff. Like, he's a proper company man. So, actually, it would have worked on many levels. But I think you're right. The chance to do that is probably
sailed now, because for various reasons, people have changed their opinion of him overall, I think, a bit now as well. How long are we going to go before we see Sasha versus Bayley? I'm hoping that we don't see them face each other till WrestleMania.
Yeah, I hope that too. I was talking about this to someone yesterday. It's very difficult to book and map out this feud, because there are several milestones that will make it work. So if you can get it to Survivor Series, that pay-per-view is traditionally brand for brand, so they can be together, but something can happen and the story can further. You know what I mean? Like, someone can cost someone. If you get it to the Royal Rumble, again, speaks for itself. Easier. You put them in the Rumble, the story becomes easier to tell, and then you're on to WrestleMania. The problems are, along the way, you've got Hell in a Cell, you've got TLC. These are like blood feud pay-per-views, and Bayley's got no challengers. And I'm thinking, I wonder if WWE...
They're not going to hold off.
They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait. And I just feel like they're going to end up having that feud run through this year. My personal intuition, but I hope that I'm wrong and it does go to Mania, because in my eyes, that's a legitimate Mania main event. That's just not my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. The one thing which I think, whilst I agree with everything you just said, I believe that they may play it out by the end of the year because they feel like they haven't got any challenges for Bayley, so they've got to do it. Whereas to me, I say, well, no, build challenges, but you know.
Well, she's been through a lot of them. Like, you know, what I mean, she's had like nearly 100, 300 odd days. I think you have to remember as well that Triple H said there's a brand draft.
I was going to say the brand split could be the saviour of keeping it till Mania, couldn't it? Because they could split them up. If they lose the titles at the next Payback, the tag team titles, you could. Or they didn't even have to lose it because the tag team titles can float. You could split them up in the brand split. Send Sasha to Raw. Keep Bayley winning, but you can also give her some fresh challenges with the draft, and then you have them drop the titles at some point, hopefully to the Riot Squad, in my opinion. I'd like to see them built up. And then, or if Sonya comes back, Mandy Rose and Sonya winning the titles on Sonya's first night back in front of a crowd would be kind of cool.
You think Sonya and Mandy reunite?
I do, yeah.
Oh.
I think, because I think if Sonya comes back, I find it very difficult to see how people will boo her as a heel. I'd say.
No, they won't. But I mean, to me, for the Royal Rumble, it's Sasha or Sonya. That to me, that's the only options you got. So it all depends where they want to take it.
I'd like to see Sasha win the Rumble then, and then main event of WrestleMania, Bayley versus Sasha. Bayley's had it for over 400 days or whatever it'll be by then, and you have Sasha crowned as the champion at WrestleMania. And if you really, really wanted to be kind of shocking, they would never do this, by the way, but you keep Charlotte off. You don't bring Charlotte back until the last 10 seconds of WrestleMania, and you have a big boot Sasha to close the show, just so everyone's like, oh my god, Charlotte made it all about her, blah blah blah.
I do think Sasha Banks is like a huge baby face in waiting. I really do, like to the levels of like
the baby face for them,
to like Becky Lynch levels. I do think she's got that in her. And the thing with Charlotte is she's kind of taking some time off at the moment. I mean, I reported that she wasn't going to be at SummerSlam, even though everyone was like she will be. So I was eagerly watching that show, thinking, please don't come back. But it's I had heard, obviously, I knew she was having the surgery, and I'd heard that she's possibly going to be off till like Rumble season. She's basically sitting around, and unless there's good creative, she's not coming back. So I don't know what they would do with her. Presumably, there's still a story to tell with Rhea Ripley. You could do a rematch there. And Io Shirai, because Charlotte wasn't the one who ate the pin. So I wonder if that'd be the story she actually goes back to. But I don't know. Like, either way, they've got options, man. It's just got to make the right call.
I would love at this if they do a draft now over the next month or so, they've got to get NXT in it. So NXT is really properly in the draft, and I want to see Io Shirai on Raw turn up to challenge Asuka, and that be the Survivor Series Raw Women's Title match, and introduce Io Shirai as a big star. They need.
But are they going to do the triple threats like they did last year though? We wouldn't actually get a title match, would we?
Oh yeah, because they did those like triple threat
matches,
which I got to say, you could have some great fun with that. But like, I want to see Undisputed Era go to SmackDown, and I want to see like all those rosters completely freshened up. So by the time it finishes, I want to see guys like Andrade and Riddle right at the top of their respective brands. And you can see that they're going to build for the future. Whoever it's going to be, whether it's Riddle, Andrade, Garza, Apollo Crews. Last couple of things on WWE, because I want to hit on AEW quickly, and I don't want to keep you too long. They're teasing that Cedric Alexander may turn heel and join MVP. They've kind of doing this story for a while. Am I the only one who thinks Ricochet is going to turn?
No, you're not. I think, do you know what? There's so many guys Apollo Crews, Cedric Alexander, and Ricochet included, who have all the talent in the world, and they're nice guys, and they
need someone to talk for them.
They just haven't got that like in your face charisma. MVP has got it. The second he starts speaking, his presence, he's got it. Right? It's done the world of good for Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin already, in my opinion. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, but Ricochet, Alexander, and Crews, they need that. They all need that character development, and they all need that rub. And you know, it's got nothing to do with the fact that all of them are like African American or anything like that. I know a lot of people are kind of going, "Oh, like a new nation." No, that's not it. Like these guys, they just need to be able to like dial the intensity up and get some depth in their character. Because right now, all three of them are just wrestlers. Yeah. That's all they are. You don't know nothing else about them. So I think that's a fundamental problem, and that's not all their fault. Because it's not as if WWE's given them a chance to do that. But I do think MVP, and I know MVP's been lobbying to work with guys like Ricochet and so on. So I do think it's crucial that he gets his hands on them and they develop those stories. Because at the moment, Crews overcoming MVP, he's done it twice. And what does it really mean?
Yeah,
is he any higher? I don't think so.
No. The thing I like about Ricochet potentially turning heel is, so if you remember last year or earlier this year, they had him kind of doing this like superhero gimmick, and there was a disconnect there because he was saying like, "Oh, I'm just an everyday guy," and then he goes and does like a 640 senton or whatever he does. He's all these crazy stuff. Lands on the outside of the ring on his feet and stuff. I like the idea of him turning heel, being with MVP talking for him, and him just being a guy who's got like sunglasses on and just knows how incredible and how good he is. Says very, very little, does ridiculous things in the ring, and doesn't necessarily he's not necessarily a heel by like a traditional heel in terms of cheating. He's just a guy who's
just arrogant.
Just a bit of a dick because he knows how good he is. I'd be down for that. 100%.
Me too.
Right. AEW, they've been busy building several people. Dark Order has suddenly become a thing, which is not universally panned as it was when they first came out.
Chastised. Yeah.
They've kind of amended well, haven't they? With not just them as well, a few different acts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously Brody Lee is the centerpiece, and it helps. Basically, when he's strong, the Dark Order's strong. That's pretty much the strength of the gimmick. And it helps that they've kind of recruited like Colt Cabanas and I think Tainara Conti, and there seems to be a lot of them that are kind of coming over. And to me, I feel like as long as Brody Lee is taken seriously, that they will be. And that's a good thing because Brody Lee is a guy that deserves to be taken seriously. He's a very talented man. Had a great showing against Moxley, and then pretty much was on the periphery for a few weeks, and then bang, the booking of Cody to that point, and the way that they met, perfect.
Yeah, they created the perfect storm they built up Cody having these great matches each week, winning. So you didn't really expect him. In these challenges, you very rarely expect the challenger to win. In these TV challenges, they're normally just a good match, exciting, building the champion up for someone to take it off at a pay-per-view. And then suddenly you had Brody Lee being the monster. He'd been quite aggressive, and they met, and I thought he was excellent. Cody did the stretcher job. Very, very well done. And then they also... did a good bit of work for Anna Jay at the end, having her choke out Brandy. And announces her on the scene as well. I thought it was brilliantly done.
Yes.
And subtly done. Another thing they did very subtly has been the Adam Page FTR Elite storyline, which is
it wasn't that subtle last night. But I hear you. I think the crescendo they're building to is so exciting. Like this is been one of those long running storylines, and how often is it like, I think Paige is going to turn heel? Oh no, I think Omega's going to go heel. And it's like this chipping back and forth, the whole role that the Elite play in it. And then there's like Cody. Is Cody going heel? Is like, there's so many different layers to what's going on in the Elite right now. But to me, Paige is the guy. Like, he is the one who is going to turn out of this. And at some point, he is going to be a monstrous, monstrous babyface. How they get there, they're keeping us guessing, and that's a great thing. But I do think it's a nice, interesting layer. Like, people are starting to think Paige might align with FTR, Tully, and Sean Spears, presumably. And that's maybe why he got FTR the shot against them. Maybe they just didn't want to face the Bucks again after Revolution. Like, there's so many different theories, and I'm down for it.
Yeah, I think what they've done very cleverly is everyone thought eventually Adam Page is going to turn. He was drinking, so everyone knew eventually he was going to turn, or they thought they did. So what they did is they added in the conflict with Matt Jackson, then they added in the conflict. So there was a point where everyone thought that Matt Jackson was being a bit of a dick to Adam Page, rather than Adam Page being the one who was letting the side down. He was still coming out to save them when they were outnumbered, and then he would leave, sort of thing. So he was kind of like, well, I'm doing my job. I'm doing
my bit.
Yeah. And then they've turned up the Omega sort of heel tendencies and hinted at the cleaner and being the Elite and things like this. So it just, like you say, keeps you guessing. And I think one thing which I'll kind of finish off on is, which people haven't talked about as much, or as the possibility, is that FTR are manipulating Adam Page. And when he'll turn, they'll win the titles, but they'll then turn on him, be the champions, and he'll be on his own completely. Yeah. And he'll still become the super baby. I think if in many ways that'll make him like a super baby face, because people will feel sorry for him. Whereas if he kind of turns and aligns with FTR, I noticed you said Sean Spears. I was thinking he's going to align him, Cody, and FTR actually, but there's options in there for that kind of 4 horseman-y type gimmick. But be interesting stuff, mate. Who would your pick be for if you had like the kind of 4 horseman type stable in AEW?
I mean, FTR go without saying that they're just the most natural fit. I think there's something really poetic about Cody being in there, being that Dusty was like the biggest adversary of the 4 horsemen. Something about that is appealing. And then I don't mind Sean Spears being the 4th. Like, I know because he's under Tully's wing now. Because I feel like the 4th man should always be someone who's got a lot of upside to gain, right? Now, Sean Spears is a guy, he's not young.
No.
He's like late 30s. He's not a young guy. So there probably are better picks. You could maybe a Brian Pillman Jr. or someone like that if you can get hold of him. Or... I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know. There's a lot, but I do feel like Cody's like your main man. You got your tag team, so you got your Ric Flair, you got your Minnesota stretching crew, and then you need like the 4th to be someone who's kind of not there yet, but he's on the way up. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So my picks personally would have been. I liked the thought of MJF being.
I just don't see him being in a stable.
I think he's he's almost too high now.
Well, he'd have to
title picture.
It's not only that; like, he'd have to lead whatever he's doing.
Yeah,
and I just don't see him leading.
It makes a difference.
Yeah,
it makes it difficult, doesn't it? So I think Brian Pillman Jr. would be a good one for the upcomer. I'd go with Brian Pillman Jr., FTR, and I think I would like to see Adam Page. As the kind of leader and really put a focus on him. But I think the potential for Adam Page to be like just a massive babyface for AEW, and I wonder whether that would hurt that progression.
I think so, and I wonder if, like, you don't want to make it too complicated, the story between him and Kenny. Like, that story is there. Let them just implode and have this bitter blood feud and lay the story in there, and put the title in that story, and then you're talking.
Oh yeah, I want to see the cleaner, mate. I gotta say, I want to see, as much as I want to see Adam Page become a superstar, I want to see New Japan Kenny Omega as well. So be interested, mate. Right. Let me just want to quickly double check. Of course, there's a million and one things I'd love to discuss with you, mate. But I know that you've got work to do, and I appreciate you fitting me in, mate. And I know he started a couple of minutes late as well. Tell the people what you've got coming up and where they can find you and stuff.
Well, so you've got Alex M_TalkSport. It's right underneath me right now. Where do I put my finger? There it is.
Yeah.
And that's where you can get me on Twitter and Instagram, but don't worry about that. Just do Twitter. And I've got a YouTube channel, of course, with Alex McCarthy. You get a lot of my interviews and Talk Wrestling, of course. That's 6 to 8 every Monday on TalkSport 2. As Simon will tell you, we have great guests every week. It's a nice, fun show. So, man, I mean, I've had Dominic Mysterio this week. Good chat with him, fresh after his excellent debut. And next week, I'm getting into it with some NXT UK talent ahead of their reboot. So, man, always stay busy.
Yes, Talk Wrestling is a very, very good show. Top guests from the wrestling world, which I have to say, nobody else gets that much access to, because Alex is the man.
I've got fingers in all these pies. That's me, mate.
All them pies. We've got loads of different shows coming up on all different subjects, as you know. Subscribe, youtube.com/AcePodcastNation. Help us grow, spread the word, and we'll be back next Saturday for another episode of Keeping It Real and Wrestling Talk. And until then, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining us, Alex. Appreciate it, mate.
Anytime, brother. I'll be back.
Always a pleasure. And we'll see you soon, guys. Cheers.